Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix movie review, and today we are discussing a new thriller starring John David Washington and Alicia Vikander. We are talking about Beckett, which by the time this video is out, the movie will be available to check out on Netflix today on Friday the 13th. I'm going to let you all know what I thought about this film and let you know if it's worth checking out on this spoiler-free review. But before we break it all down, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Beckett, well, make sure to like and share this video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in the comments below, if you got the chance to see Beckett, what did you think about this espionage thriller with this man going through the ringer, John David Washington? What do you think of the performances, the direction, the story? Were you disappointed? Were you bored? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. And also, since we're talking John David Washington, and I know his career has been kind of, newer to say the least, what has been your favorite John David Washington performance thus far? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So, going into Beckett, I saw the trailer and I was immediately sold because I actually personally like John David Washington. It does help that his father is my favorite actor of all time, but I like him as an actor. I'm a huge Alicia Vikander fan, and the look and the feel, and knowing that the director works very closely to one of my favorite directors in Luca Guadagnino, so I was really excited for it. So what did I think about it? Starting off with my positives, I gotta say, man, again, going back to the director being someone that works closely with Luca Guadagnino, this is a very interesting, unique, kind of weird, clunky, messy film, to say the least. And we'll get to a little bit more criticism a little bit later. But I will say I wasn't expecting to get the type of thriller, political type of film that we end up getting with this movie. So surprisingly, I thought it was going to be a little bit more straightforward than what it is. And it is very convoluted. And we'll save that for a little bit later in the criticisms. But I will say I was pretty entertained for the reasons that I don't think the film was meant to be entertaining. I found myself laughing a lot in this film, and we'll get to that here in a second. But let me get to my man John David Washington. I will say there are some issues I have with the character, but I do think that out of all his performances that I've seen in John David Washington, which this is the third film this year I've seen of him, with Malcolm Marie, Monster, now this has to be the most physically taxing film that he has done so far in his career. I mean, this was like Run Lola Run meets The Fugitive, and he went through the ringer. I mean, this man was a Terminator. He was Batman. He was shot. Shots to him are like, paper cuts. He was stabbed. That was like getting tickled. I mean, this man was going through the ringer. So I will say, as far as physically speaking, I think that John David Washington, from a physical performance, did a pretty solid job and made it pretty... I don't want to say the word believable, because there's some stuff in this film that is completely unbelievable, but I believe that he did some of his stunts. I'll just leave it at that. Outside of those little things that I kind of commentated on as far as positives, this was a very weird film. This film has a lot to say, but not a lot to deliver in what it's trying to say. Number one, we have this story, which, again, I mentioned Alicia Vikander. Now, I'm a big fan of hers, and I didn't mention her in my positives because she's really not in the film that much, and I won't speak to the reason why. If you've seen the trailer, you know why, but I won't give it away here in this review. But Alicia Vikander and John David Washington had zero chemistry in this film, and it really sucks because I'm a big fan of both of them. But again, going back to Alicia Vikander, I was really hoping that she had a little bit more to do with the story, and their love interest story was very just kind of, again, the chemistry was not there, not whatsoever, and honestly, anyone could have been in her role. But going back to John David Washington, which I have to say, I mentioned how his physical performance, I felt it to be believable to a certain extent, but his performance as far as acting in this film was very flat. I felt like he was supposed to be this kind of anti-hero type of individual that you don't believe that he can survive the stuff that he was going through, which was very much true. That part landed because I did not believe 90% of the stuff that Beckett was doing in this film. Again, this man was shot. He was stabbed. My man jumped off a side of a cliff. There's a moment in this film, and I don't want to say where it is in the film, but I'll just say this. If you all have seen The Dark Knight, I'm talking about Batman. I did refer to Beckett as Batman because he is Batman. there's a scene that happens very early on in The Dark Knight that happens in this film, and I was laughing so hard. There's so many moments in this film that I found to be very laughable, which isn't a compliment to the film because it's supposed to be taken very seriously. Again, this film is a political thriller, and there's murder, and there's kidnapping. There's a lot of serious things going on in this film, but I found myself laughing throughout these serious parts. But the stuff that Beckett was able to do in this film is just completely laughable. Which brings me back to this very convoluted, very confusing, very unsatisfying story. Again, there's no character development whatsoever. Like when we meet our main character, John David Washington, there's really no development within his character outside of him being able to survive anything. But the whole story is really structured on this political corruption story that really has no satisfaction at all. When you get the resolution of why all these things are shaping out, as John David Washington and his girlfriend, played by Alicia Vikander, get into this accident and stumble across the wrong place at the wrong time, and once you figure out this whole situation going on, you're just like, wait, what's the resolution? Number one, what's the resolution with Beckett? And then number two, what's the resolution with Greece in this political situation? No storyline has a satisfying conclusion. And also just, again, thinking about how this film is kind of pace itself together, how they put this film together. I don't understand the time and day. It feels like this was one of the longest days of history with Beckett in the story. There's a lot of experimental cues of music. I don't think that they had a fight choreography on this set at all, because it looks like a lot of the fight choreography, it looked like a lot of the stunts were like improv. My man John David Washington was running more than Tom Cruise has run in any movie I've seen of his, and it was just like very clunky, very weird editing shots, and again, the music cues were just this is a very experimental film, which again, it doesn't surprise me in that sense, because again, knowing the director works with Luca Guadagnino, who, if you've seen his films, Call Me By Your Name, Suspiria, most recently he did the show on HBO, We Are Who We Are. He's a very distinct type of director. I think this director takes some of those sensibilities, but just doesn't flesh them out and doesn't make it cohesive in this type of film. This is, again, I can go on and on about just how clunky of a film and how weird this film is. Again, it's a Run Lola Run meets The Fugitive, but has none of the satisfying conclusions to the story, to the characters, to the main threat that's going on in this film. It's a very unsatisfying story, but I will say I laughed my ass off watching this movie. But there's a lot more I can say about the film, but it'll dive more into the spoilers. So let me just give you guys my overall thoughts on my score and let you know if it's worth checking out. But before we dive into that, if you've already been watching this video to this point, I appreciate every single one of you all. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment below. What did you think of Beckett? Were you entertained? Did you enjoy the story, or were you disappointed? And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Overall, I did have a good laugh, but I'm not going to lie, this was a very disappointing film for me. I thought that John David Washington, when given good direction, a la Spike Lee or Christopher Nolan, when having a good secondary character to bounce off of, whether it's an Adam Driver or a Robert Pattinson, John David Washington's a pretty good actor, but when he is left to be the one and only main character in a film that's so physically demanding, that doesn't really have a lot of story to give him or a lot of script to kind of bounce off of, it makes him look extremely flat, and I thought that he was not a good lead in this film, and I do not think this is a good movie at all, even though I had some really good laughs. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Beckett a 2 out of 5. Again, I didn't expect to go through this journey of this non-thrilling journey, but I was pretty disappointed by that journey. And also, like I said, when you get to the end of the film, it's just no satisfaction whatsoever. So again, 2 out of 5 for me on Beckett, and I would say there are plenty of other things to watch this weekend, and I would put Beckett on the bottom of the list in regards to what you should watch this weekend. And speaking of what you should watch this weekend, we have a ton of content on the channel right now. From Free Guy, I will be watching Don't Breathe later today, so expect a review from that, and there's so much to enjoy on the channel. So I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope you all enjoyed this review. Again, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.